नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी लोकं जगति वाचालं वन्दे गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं श्रीपरमानन्दमाधवम् So today we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, it is chapter 5, text 5. Yat sankhyaye prapyate sthanam tadyogairapi gamyate ekam sankhyan ca yogam ca या पश्यति स पश्यति यत् सांख्ये प्राप्यते स्थानं तद्योगैरपि गम्यते एकं सांख्यं च योगं च या पश्यति स पश्यति यत् सांख्ये प्राप्यते स्थानं तद्योगैरपि गम्यते एकं सांख्यं च योगं च या पश्यति स पश्यति यत् सांख्ये प्राप्यते स्थानं तद्योगैरपि गम्यते एकं सांख्यं च योगं च या पश्यति स पश्यति यत् सांख्ये प्राप्यते स्थानं तद्योगैरपि गम्यते एकं सांख्यं च योगं च या पश्यति स पश्यति यत् सांख्ये प्राप्यते स्थानं तद्योगैरपि गम्यते एकं सांख्यं च योगं च या पश्यति स पश्यति यत् what Sankhya by means of Sankhya philosophy prapyate is achieved sthanam place tat that yogai by devotional service api also gamyate one can attain ekam one sankhya analytical study cha and yogam action in devotion cha and ya one who pashyati sees Sa, he, Pasyati, actually sees. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. Purpose. The real purpose of philosophical research is to find the ultimate goal of life. Since the ultimate goal of life is self-realization, there is no difference between the conclusions reached by the two processes. By Sankhya philosophical research, one comes to the conclusion that a living entity is not a part and parcel of the material world, but of the Supreme Spirit whole. Consequently, the spirit soul has nothing to do with the material world. His actions must be in some relation with the Supreme. When he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is actually in his constitutional position. In the first process, Sankhya, one has to become detached from matter, and in the devotional yoga process, one has to attach himself to the work of Krishna consciousness. Factually, both processes are the same, although superficially, one process appears to involve detachment and the other process appears to involve attachment. Detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. One who can see this sees things as they are. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sopadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Sri Dapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavansya Shri Rupam Shakradatam Sagana Raghunatha Nitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishnam Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saganamrita Shri Visakha Nitamsa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhama Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhubheva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo 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 Mahavadannaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurate Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here in this verse of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is explaining about Sankhya Yoga, and Sankhya Yoga means analytical study of this material world and devotional service or action in Krishna consciousness. So here in this verse, Lord Krishna is emphasizing that analytical study of this material world and action in Krishna consciousness, both are the same, because one leads to another. As we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, that Lord Kapil Dev, while explaining to Mother Devahuti, he spoke about the spirit soul, about the material world, and how the spirit soul is suffering in this material world, and what is the process of getting out of this material world. So Lord Kapil's philosophy is called Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya means analytical study. So to come to a conclusion, one has to first analyze the material world. Unless we analyze the material world, we cannot come to a proper conclusion, or our conclusion may not be correct. Because we see in material world there are so many different processes. Of course, these processes, they are coming out from mental speculation, and they have no basis. That's why people are misguided in this material world. Specifically, in this age of Kali, we see different paths are there, and sometimes people say all these paths lead to the same goal, but that is not correct. Because all these different paths are actually different mental speculations of different personalities. But there is one material world, there is one God, and there is one path how to get out from this material world. There cannot be many paths. So we see that this analytical study or Sankhya Yoga so we see that all these different paths are mental speculations, and they are actually mental concoction of different personalities. But in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Mahatmya of Bhagavad Gita, it has been stated, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gita. There is only one Shastra, one scripture, that is called Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita contains all the essence of Vedic literatures. So this Devaki Putra means the son of Devaki, Krishna. This is Devaki Putra Gitam. Means son of Devaki is Krishna, and his Gita, his song or his instructions is called Bhagavad Gita. So that is one scripture to attain this Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ekam Sastram Devaki Putra Gitam, Eko Deva Devaki Putra Eva. And there is only one God. There are not different gods. Sometimes people think, oh, this person is God, that person is God, so many gods. And sometimes even in so-called Hindu religion, they say there are 33 crores of demigods, so they are all gods. But this is not true. So it is said that Eko Deva Devaki Putra Eva. There is only one God, and that God is Devaki Putra, the son of Devaki means Krishna. There cannot be different gods. So then it says that Eka Mantra Tasya Namani Jan. And there is only one mantra to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what is that mantra? The name of the Supreme Lord. To chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord is the only mantra and essence of all the mantras. So when one chants the holy name of the Lord, he can very easily attain the Supreme Personality of God. This is the essence given in this sloka. And then there is one act or one action. What is that? That Tasya Devasya Seva. So to serve that Supreme Lord Krishna is the only action to be performed in this material world. No other action is needed. Because that will lead us to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we can get rid of this material world which is full of miseries. So there cannot be different paths to attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord Krishna himself, he is emphasizing in this verse how to attain him. So here one may go for philosophical research. Nowadays we see in universities there are so many research works are going on. Philosophical research, then so many different material research institutes are there. But there is no research institute to research about God. So all these philosophical speculations have no value, or this is useless. But one philosophical research, which is the analytical study of this material world, can lead one to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If someone seriously researches or analyzes this material world, what this material world is, who is the creator of this material world, what is the purpose of creating this material world, and why are we suffering in this material world, though we all want eternal happiness while living here in this material world. And who are we actually? What is our relationship with the Supreme Lord? So all these questions are there. Anyone who is intelligent enough, he will ask these questions. That why am I suffering? And what is the way to get out of this suffering? But those who are not very intelligent, their life goes on as others are leading their life, like eating, sleeping, mating and defending, working very hard, earning money, maintaining family, and then after all, death comes and they have to die. They have to give up everything. They have to leave everything. So in this way, the living entity, one after another life, is taking birth in this material world, again going through all those sufferings, birth, death, old and disease, and then again he dies, then again takes another birth, and then again suffers the same thing. So this is the material world. So Lord Kapil Dev, while explaining Mother Devavati, he explained all these things. That what is this material world? How was it created? And who is the Supreme Lord? And how to get out of this material world? So he explained in very detail how the living entity suffers in this material world, starting from the mother's womb. All detailed descriptions are given in that instruction of Lord Kapil Dev, which is called Sankhya Yoga. So Lord Krishna here in this verse also is referring to that Sankhya Yoga. That first to analyze this material world, what this material world is. When someone analyzes this material world, then at last he will come to a conclusion. And what is that conclusion? That we are not this body. We are not connected to this material world. Like Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul and part and parcel of Krishna. This is our eternal position. So when we come to this conclusion that we are not this material body, so everything related to this material body does not belong to us. Or they are temporary in nature. This body is temporary in nature, and everything related to this material body is also temporary in nature. So what is the use of serving this temporary body and this temporary relationships? That's why when someone will come to this conclusion that I am the spirit soul and part and parcel of Krishna, so my duty is to serve Krishna eternally. And by serving Krishna, with whom I have an eternal relationship, I can only become happy. Because Krishna is eternal, and myself is eternal, and our relationship is eternal. Whereas in this material world, everything is temporary. This body is temporary, relationships are temporary, whatever action we do, that is also temporary. And in this way, when one will come to the conclusion, then he is considered an intelligent person. That's why it says, Bahunang janmanang ante jnanavan mang prapadyate. Krishna says that after many, many lifetimes, when by analyzing this material world, one comes to this knowledge that Bahunang janmanang ante jnanavan mang prapadyate. When one analyzes this material world and comes to this knowledge after many, many lifetimes, after many, many births, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the conclusion of all knowledge, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how to attain Krishna? Krishna says, Bhaktya mang abhijanat. Only by devotional service can I be understood as I am. There is no other way. Though people say there are different paths, but Krishna says only by devotional service I can be understood. There is no other way to understand Krishna. While speaking to Uddhava, Lord Krishna says, Na sadhayati man yoga, na sankham dharma uddhava. Just by performing yogic practices, mystic yoga practices, one cannot understand me. Or na sankhya, just by analytical study. Unless one comes to the conclusion of this analytical study, just by analyzing this material world also has no value. One has to come to a conclusion. Then one can attain this. So sometimes we see people analyze this material world in so many different ways, but they have no conclusion. Like the scientists, they are also analyzing this material world, that how this material world was created. They are analyzing this, they are trying to experiment, but they have no conclusion. They have not come to any solid conclusion. So what is the use of this study which has no conclusion? This is only wastage of time. So here Krishna says that just by analyzing this material world also has no value. One cannot understand it unless one comes to the conclusion. That's why he says non-sankhya. Just not by analyzing this material world. Non-dharma, just by religious practices. People, they practice religion, they do so many vratas or fastings, they perform different rituals, they do so many different things, and they feel that they are doing some religious activities or they are religious people. But unless they understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to worship Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, their religious practices have also no value. That also becomes useless. So Krishna, that's why says, na sankhya, na dharma, na shraddhaya. If someone thinks that I will study all the scriptures and then I will become very knowledgeable, then I will know everything. So just by studying different scriptures, also one cannot understand Krishna. Na shraddhaya, tapa, just by performing austerity. Sometimes we see people, they perform austerity, they only live with milk or with some fruits, they don't eat anything else, they become very famous, Phalahari Baba, Dugdhahari Baba, so many Babas are there, and people, they become attracted to them. Yet they think, oh, he is living only by fruits, or he is living only by milk. But what is the use of that? What is the goal of that? Sometimes people do this to attract people towards them, but they cannot give transcendental knowledge, or they don't themselves understand transcendental knowledge. So the real purpose is to understand Krishna. That's why Krishna says, not just by mere austerity I can be understood. Tapa, tyaga, by renunciation also I cannot be understood. Jatha bhaktir mamarjita. As I am understood by devotional service, I cannot be understood by any other means. So again and again in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna emphasizes devotional service. And that is the only way to attain the lotus feet of Krishna, to please Krishna. So here in this verse, Krishna says, Yat sankhya prapyate sthanam tad yoge api gamyate. So as the position is attained by analytical study of this material world, that position can also be attained by yoga, means action in Krishna consciousness, devotional service. So that means one has to come to a conclusion in analytical study. And what is that conclusion? That Krishna says, Bahunang janmanang ante jnanavana mang prapadyate vasudeva sarvang iti sa mahatma sudurlabha. So this is the conclusion. Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, Krishna is the supreme goal of life. Sarvam iti. He is the source of everything. Krishna is the source of this material world. He is the source of all living entities, and He is source of everything. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything, both material and spiritual. So when one comes to this conclusion that Krishna is the source of everything, He is the root cause of everything, and then one surrenders to Him. When one comes to this conclusion, then one should surrender to Krishna. It is not that one will analyze the material world, come to this conclusion and not surrender. Then that has also no value. So that's why here it is said that yat sankhya praptate sthana. Just by this sankhya or analytical study of this material world, the position one attains, means the conclusion one attains. And what is that conclusion? Vasudeva sarvam yeti. Krishna is the source of everything. He is the ultimate goal of everything. And the same conclusion is also attained by yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, or by devotional service. Because in devotional service, Krishna is worshipped. Because the devotional service cannot be done for anyone else. Actual devotion is meant to satisfy Krishna. We cannot say that, oh, I am a devotee of such and such demigod. Because we cannot perform devotional service to a demigod. Only we can perform devotional service to Krishna. Because Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer of everything. Bhaktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhudam sarvabhutanam gyapta man santi vritsi. One can attain peace in this material world. One will understand that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all austerities, yajna, all the sacrifices, yajna tapasya, sarvaloka maheshwaram, because Krishna is the supreme Ishvara, supreme controller of all the planetary systems. And he is the well-wishing friend, Srudam Sarvabhutana, well-wishing friend of all living entities. So knowing this, when one acts in Krishna consciousness, means one acts to satisfy Krishna. That is devotional service. When we do something to satisfy Krishna, the goal of our activity is to satisfy Krishna, then that becomes devotional service. If our activity is meant to satisfy someone else or ourselves, then that is not devotional service. So here Krishna says that the position one attains by devotional service and by analytical study are the same. Because if someone is really analyzing this material world, he will come to this conclusion that Krishna is the ultimate goal of life and he is the cause of all causes. So then what he will do? He will perform devotional service to satisfy Krishna. So here Prabhupada explains in his purport that two things are involved in these two processes. In analytical study of this material world, when we analyze this material world that we are not this body, or all this material, all these relationships with the body also are temporary, then naturally we will develop detachment. Detachment to this material world, detachment to the body. Because we are all very, very attached to our body. We think our body is very dear to us. So we take care of our body because of our attachment, and then we become attached to our those who are related to our body. Then we become attached to them also. So in this way, our attachment expands from our body, then to wife or husband or children, family members, friends, relatives, in this nation. So in this way, this attachment develops and it starts from one's own body. So all these attachments, when we analyze this material world, analyze this material body, how this body is the cause of all sufferings. Whatever we suffer in this material world, because that is because of our material body. If we would have no material body, then we would have no suffering in this material world. So, this birth, old age, disease and death, all these things are related to our material body only. If we had not got this material body, then we would have no suffering. No birth, no death, no old age, no disease. So the material body is the cause of all our suffering. But we are the spirit soul, we are not this body. When one comes to this conclusion, then he will develop detachment to his material body and everything related to his material body. So this is the conclusion of analytical study of this material world, that one will develop detachment to matters, material world, this body and bodily relations. And then when one performs devotional service, so then what happens when one acts to satisfy Krishna? Like we are hearing about Krishna from the devotees, we are studying from the scriptures about Krishna, we are chanting Krishna's holy name, we are worshipping Krishna, then we are serving Krishna in different ways to satisfy him. So all these things are meant to develop attachment for Krishna. So when we become detached from material world and our material body, and we worship Krishna, act to satisfy Krishna, then gradually we will also develop attachment for Krishna. So here two things are going on simultaneously. Detachment from this material world, then attachment for Krishna. The more we become attached to Krishna, the more we become detached from this material world. So that's why Krishna says there is no difference between these two processes. That the goal is this time. When one analyzes this material world, he will become detached from this material world. And then when one will act to satisfy Krishna, after coming to the conclusion that Krishna is the source of everything, then he will become attached to Krishna. So by this analytical study, we are actually coming to the platform of becoming attached to Krishna. That's why Krishna says here that there is no difference between this analytical study and action in Krishna consciousness. Because the goal is the same, to become detached from material world and become attached to Krishna. Then only we can attain perfection in this material world. So that has been stated also in Padma Purana. Alodya sarva shastrani vicharya punah punah idam eka sunishkarnam dheya narayana sada. So alodya sarva shastrani, one may study all different scriptures and trying to find out the essence of all those scriptures. Vicharya punah punah. And not only studying different scriptures, one should also consider the essence of different scriptures. What they say, what is the goal of those scriptures. One should consider on that subject again and again after studying all the scriptures. So if one will consider the essence of studying all the scriptures, idam eka sunisprana, then one will come to this conclusion, and only one conclusion. And what is that? Dheya Narayana Sada. To meditate always on the form of Lord Narayana. This is the conclusion of all Vedic literatures. That Lord Narayana should be meditated upon all the time. That's why it has been stated also, Smartabhya Satatam Vishnu Vismartabhya Na Jatusi. That one should remember Lord Vishnu or Krishna All the time, one should not forget Lord Krishna or Vishnu for a moment. No? That is the goal of one's life. Then one will attain perfection in his life. So this is the essence of this verse. Lord Krishna is emphasizing to develop detachment by analyzing this material world and becoming attached to Him and act for His pleasure. Hare Krishna. Is there any comments or questions? Yeah.